Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Good afternoon. If everyone can begin taking their desks, I know we have a full agenda tonight. So I'm Councilmember Brett Withers, the Vice Chair, and I'm filling in for our illustrious Chair, Councilmember Kathleen Murphy, who has a scheduling conflict this afternoon. I don't believe we need to take the roll other than marking down. We do need to take the roll. Okay. All right, we will take the roll officially, just for the record. So for the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee, this is our meeting for today, Monday, July the 19th of 2021, and I will begin taking the roll. Councilmember Allen. Great. Councilmember Benedict. Councilmember Bradford is here. Councilmember Cash is here. Councilmember Evans, I think, is not yet present. Councilmember Gamble. Present. Thank you. Councilmember Hager. Thank you. Councilmember Hall? Here. Thank you. Councilmember Chair Murphy is absent. Councilmember O'Connell is present. Councilmember Parker? Present. Thank you. Councilmember Rutherford? Here. Thank you. Is Councilmember Stiles here? Don't believe so yet. Councilmember Toombs is out. Councilmember Van Rees? Here. Present. Thank you. Councilmember Welsh? Great. And I'm Councilmember Withers. I'm here. So we've got a long agenda, and I'm still sorting through for a couple of items. If we can, if you can give me just a moment, I'll double check my latest notes for our consent agenda, but we do have a lot of items that are on consent. I was going to pull it off to discuss the amendments if we can, although neither sponsor is present. Porterfield part of that? Okay. Okay. And is she comfortable with that for item 9? Oh, okay. There's budget. And that's affordable housing, that's budget. Are we okay with that for the amendment? Go ahead and run it and then call for the minutes. All right, everyone, thank you so much for your patience. So for our consent agenda, the items that I have marked for consent, I will read the numbers, and if you have any of those that needs to be pulled off, then let me know. And then after we confirm the numbers, I will read the captions.
Murphy's approved all of her items.
And that gets most of them. So the first one on consent would be item number 1, which is a resolution. Item number 2, which is also a resolution. Item number 3, and item number 4, those are all resolutions and all are on consent. Then moving to page 4, there's Councilmember Toombs. Hang on just a second. Let me see what that does for us. Let me just make sure I haven't. So far on consent, we have resolutions, which are items 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your calendar.
Councilor Allen has.
Sure. Sure. That's item number 1 is resolution RS 2021-1042. Resolution RS 2021-1055. Resolution 2021 RS 2021-1056, and Resolution RS 2021-1057. Those 4 are on consent. Then moving to bills on second reading. Item number 10, which is Bill BL 2021-801. Item number 11, which is BL 2021-802. Item number 12, BL 2021-803. Item number 13, BL 2021-804. Item number 14, BL 2021-805. Item number 15, BL 2021-806. Item number 16, BL 2021-807, and that's for bills on second reading. Bills on third reading, item number 17, BL 2019-3, which is on consent to defer one meeting. Item number 18, BL 2021-705. Item number 20, which is BL 2021-721. Item number 22, BL 2021-763. Item number 23, which is BL 2021-764. Item number 24, BL 2021-765. Item number 25, which is BL 2021-767. Item 26, which is BL 2021-768. Item 27, which is BL 2021-769. Item 28, which is BL 2021-770. Item number 30, which is BL 2021-772. Item 33, which is BL 2021-774. Item 33, which is BL 2021-775. Item number 35, which is BL 2021-778. So that's bills on third. So does anyone need me to repeat any of those, or does anyone wish to pull any of those from consent? Give everyone just a second to make sure. That's a lot of items on consent. Okay, so seeing none, I'll read through that list and take a drink of water first. So the consent agenda is as follows. Item number 1, Resolution RS 2021-1042, sponsors are Parker, Van Rees, Toombs, Taylor, Murphy, and Welsh, approves the Second Amendment to the lease agreement between the Metro government and the state of Tennessee for operation of a medical examiner's office. Item number 2, Resolution RS 2021-1055, sponsors are Withers, O'Connell, Toombs, Murphy, and Nash, approves an intergovernmental agreement between TDOT and Public Works for the acceptance of work in connection with the installation of separated bike lanes as part of the East Nashville Backbones Grant. Item number 3, Resolution RS 2021-1056, the sponsors are O'Connell, Toombs, Murphy, and Nash, approves an intergovernmental participation agreement between Metro Department of Water and Sewerage Services, the state of Tennessee, Department of General Services, to provide improved public sanitary service through the construction of an improved stormwater system. Item number 4, Resolution RS 2021-1057, sponsors are council members Murphy and Nash, amends Ordinance BL 2018-1162 to authorize the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to modify the acceptance of public sewer mains, manholes, and easements, and update the map and parcel information for now 3 properties located at 1000 Bradburn Village Drive, 701B Bradburn Village Way, and Bradburn Village Circle Unnumbered, also known as the Bradburn Village Phase 4. Moving on to bills on second reading, we have item number 10, BL 2021-801. The sponsors are Councilmember Sledge, Murphy, Nash, and O'Connell, abandons a portion of Hamilton Avenue right-of-way. Item number 11, BL 2021-802. Sponsors are Councilmembers Murphy, Roberts, and Nash, abandons an existing public sanitary sewer main, sanitary manhole and easements, and to accept a new sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for 2 properties located at 6001 and 6003 O'Brien Avenue. Item number 12, BL 2021-803. The sponsors are O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash, abandons an existing combination sewer and water mains, combination sewer manholes, fire hydrant assemblies and easements, and to accept a new combination sewer, sanitary sewer, and water mains, combination sewer manholes, inlets, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for 5 properties located on Church Street and 12th Avenue North, also known as the 1111 Church Street development. Item number 13, BL 2021-804, abandoned, sponsors are Councilmembers Sledge, Murphy, and Nash. Abandoned is an existing water and sanitary sewer, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes and easements, and to accept new water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 3000 Rains Avenue, also known as the MLS Fairgrounds development. Item number 14, BL 2021-805, sponsors are Toombs, Murphy, and Nash, accepts a new sanitary manhole for property located at 251 Venture Circle, also known as the 261 French Landing development. Item number 15, BL 2021-806, the sponsors are Councilmembers Parker, Murphy, and Nash, relocates a public fire hydrant assembly for properties located at 750 and 754 Douglas Avenue. Item number 16, BL 2021-807, the sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash, accepts a new water main, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for properties located at 1320 Adams Street, also known as the Newhoff Development Phase 2. Now moving on to bills on third reading, we have item number 17, which is BL 2019-3. The sponsors are Councilmembers Syracuse, Murphy, Van Rees, Hancock, O'Connell, Allen, and Suara. Amends the Metropolitan Code, Chapters 5.20 and 17.40, authorizing Metro government to come under the provisions of TCA Section 67-5-218 and establishing a historic property review board empowered to abate property taxes relating to certain improvements or restorations made to historic properties, and that one is on consent to defer one meeting. Item number 18, BL 2021-705, the sponsor is Councilmember Stiles. Council cancels a portion of a PUD for various parcels located at 5178 and 5234 Mount View Road unnumbered, 5246, 5252, and 5260 Hickory Hollow Parkway, and 927 Bell Road, located northwest of the intersection of Bell Road and Mount View Road, zoned shopping center, and partially located within the Corridor Design Overlay District, encompassing 39.57 acres. Next item is item number 20, and that's BL 2021-721. The sponsors are Councilmembers Porterfield, Murphy, Syracuse, and Bradford. It amends sections of the Metro Code zoning regulations to remove the alternative financial services use from office neighborhood, commercial neighborhood alternative, commercial neighborhood no STRP, commercial neighborhood alternative no STRP zoning districts. Next is item number 22, BL 2021-763. The sponsor is Councilmember Sledge. Changes from IWD to MULA NS zoning for property located at 609 Merritt Avenue, approximately 200 feet west of Martin Street. Item number 23, BL 2021-764. Changes from, the sponsor is Councilmember Van Rees, changes from OG to MUGA zoning for property located at 607 West Due West Avenue and Lentz Drive unnumbered at the southwest corner of West Due West Avenue and Briarville Road, and partially located within a planned unit overlay development district. Item number 24, BL 2021-765. The sponsor is Councilmember Van Rees, cancels a PUD for properties located at 607 West Due West Avenue at the southwest corner of Due West Avenue and Briarville Road, zoned OG, encompassing 3.71 acres. Item number 25, BL 2021-767, the sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell, applies a historic landmark overlay district to properties located at 606 and 708th Avenue South. Item number 26, BL 2021-768, the sponsor is Councilmember Bradford, changes from RS10 to SP zoning for properties located at 3128 Elm Hill Pike and Elm Hill Pike unnumbered to permit 38 multifamily residential units. Item number 27, BL 2021-769, the sponsor is Councilmember Sledge, changes from IWD to MULA NS zoning for properties located at 510 Interstate Boulevard South and 341 Heron Drive. Item number 28, BL 2021-770, the sponsor is Councilmember Van Rees, amends a specific plan for property located at 555 Creative Way to add 0.33 acres for a total of 4.71 acres to permit a mixed-use development. Item number 30, BL 2021-772, the sponsor is Councilmember Young, changes from CS, RS20, and R10 zoning to SP zoning for properties located at 320 Conair Drive, 110 One Mile Parkway, and Gallatin Pike, unnumbered, to permit 396 multifamily residential units. Item number 32, BL 2021-774, the sponsor is Councilmember Sledge, changes from IWD to MULA NS zoning for properties located at 509 and 511 Hagan Street at the southeast corner of Hagan Street and Gray Street. Item number 33, BL 2021-775, the sponsor is O'Connell, changes from CN to SP zoning for property located at 1803 Fifth Avenue North to permit 4 multifamily residential units and 1,900 square feet of non-residential units. And then the last item on our consent agenda, I believe, is item number 35, which is BL 2021-778. The sponsor is Councilmember Hager. Changes from RS10 to RM6 NS zoning for properties located at 4224, 4226, and 4230 Andrew Jackson Parkway, and approximately 575 feet north of Tyler Drive. And with that, I will move approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a second? Item 2? Okay, any other items to be pulled from consent before we move that? Do I have a second for the consent agenda, please? All right, thank you. Shall we take this by voice vote? We'll take a voice vote. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? All right, the consent agenda passes. Thank you, everyone. So next we'll go to item number 2, which is Resolution RS 2021-1055. The sponsors are myself, Councilmember O'Connell, Councilmembers Toombs, Murphy, and Nash. This approves an intergovernmental agreement between TDOT and Public Works for the acceptance of work in connection with the installation of separated bike lanes on Union Street from 2nd Avenue North to 1st Avenue North, Woodland Street from 1st Avenue North to South 11th Street, South 5th Street from Woodland Street to Division Street, and South 10th Street from Woodland Street to Sevier Street. Move approval? Okay, so it's been moved and properly seconded, and Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on this one, I'm obviously very excited about this. This will be a wonderful connection between our chair's district and my own, with a great new opportunity for cyclists to cross the river much more safely. The big question I had is, if we approve this from a planning perspective, as worded and as funded here, we're actually under implementation for the 3rd Avenue segment of the core bike lanes, and so this mentions Union Street from 2nd to 1st, and I don't know if that means that under the terms of this project we couldn't go that one extra block to 3rd, if that would have to be a separate project. I'd like somebody from planning to help me understand the way that the planned implementation of this project happens to align with the actual work itself and the funding. Thank you.
Hi, I actually don't know the answer to that, so I'm going to have to reach out to someone from our transportation team to see if they can get me an answer quickly. But I just don't know I just don't have the answer to that.
But I'll make sure we get some more refinement from Public Works as we come into that committee tomorrow. I wondered from the planning perspective if there was some reason why we stopped short of 2nd. So Lisa, I guess in a follow-up to that too, from a design perspective, I know planning was very involved in the core bike lanes project, and I just didn't know if there was a strange reason for that one block of disconnect for this project. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Otherwise, I'm very supportive of this and want to see this get approved, so I'll renew that motion.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, that resolution is adopted. Next, we will come to item number 5, This is BL 2019-7, and the sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell. And Councilmember, do you have a motion on that one? Could you repeat the motion, Mr.?
Move approval.
Move approval? Could you say it into the mic, please?
Sorry, move approval.
Okay. Any others? So it's been moved and properly seconded. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make just a brief comment on this one. I think we've had some discussion about this. It obviously got deferred by rule after a lengthy period of not being on the calendar. And just by way of explanation, the entire reason for bringing this bill nearer to the start of the term, in fact, was I've had a number of constituents. District 19 has a substantial amount of R6A zoning, and as a result, a number of both attached and detached duplexes on parcels that support that. And most of the owners of those duplexes do not own both units and look around their streets, their neighborhoods, and see their neighbors become eligible for owner-occupied short-term rental permits, and they are not eligible until and unless they own both halves of a duplex. That said, I know there are other constituents apprehensive about any further expansion of permit allowances, both in District 19 and I'm sure citywide as well, just based on as we see a return of our hospitality industry and destination status as a city, the quality of life degradation that occurs. But I am interested in hearing from colleagues about what they expect the impact of this to be, and maybe even in Codes Committee getting some updates from the Codes Department on both data about overall permit access as well as enforcement success or failures over the past year. So it's back on the calendar, and I'm interested in the discussion right now.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Is there anyone wishing to be recognized for additional discussion? Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Councilmember O'Connell, for bringing this bill back. I've heard from constituents in the same situation where they are seeing their neighbors get permits and they wish to do that themselves. I think what gives me just a little bit of pause here is the sort of wide range of configuration that a duplex can take in Nashville these days. We'll see in R6 zoning, we'll see sort of two discrete detached units with their own fenced yards and their own parking, but we still have a lot of more traditional attached duplexes, structures where the amenities are more shared. So, one common yard, and as we know, even with an owner-occupied permit, that does not necessarily mean that the permit holder will be on premises when the property is rented. So the shared amenity, the shared parking, and in many cases the attached wall gives me some pause about opening two-family properties up to short-term rental permits in a way that we don't currently. So I'll also be following the discussion. Love to hear from Codes any information about enforcement of kind of existing rules and regulations, as well as some other elements that might be improving. So thanks again for bringing this back, and I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Do any other members wish to be recognized? Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the spirit in which this is offered and join in the conversation. Just to give some history, when we initially started our blundering effort at regulating short-term rental, we did allow both sides of a duplex, and in some cases that winds up with 24 guests right there in one property. That makes me really nervous. And there is a precedent for requiring distance between things, and whoever got there first gets it. We do that for daycare. We do it for alternative financing. We do it for billboards. So I know, people say, well, it's not really fair, but in some cases it's just not good to have that kind of concentration. And we do it for other things where we worry about the effect of too much of a good thing in a small amount of space. So that's my contribution to the discussion. I appreciate everyone looking at all sides of this.
Do any other members wish to be recognized to speak on this bill? If not, I believe we have a motion to approve on the floor. It's been seconded. Are we ready to cast a vote? All right, so we'll try this with a voice vote. So all in favor of approval, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let's do,
Raise hands.
we can do, raise your hands if you're in favor. And all. So this is in favor. So Councilmember Toombs, O'Connell, Van Rees, Rutherford, so that's 4, and I will vote in favor, so I'll be, and then opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, Hall, okay. 5 to 7. Okay, so the,
Who's abstaining? Gamble?
any abstentions? Okay. So our committee's recommendation is 5 approval, 7 disapproval, and 1 abstention. Okay, great. Look forward to additional discussion in other committees and on the floor. For our next 2 items, these are both sponsored by Councilmember Rosenberg. I believe he's not present, and I don't have a letter in favor of those. What I would recommend is that we defer by rule. Is there any discussion on the deferral by rule? Okay.
Did you read the captions of those?
All right, so I'll read the captions of both of these. This is item number 6, BL 2021-654. The sponsor is Councilmember Rosenberg. Changes from RM2 to RS40 property located at 6,000 River Valley Drive at the southeast corner of River Valley Drive and Newson Station Road, and located within a PUD, all of which is described herein. And then item number 7, BL 2021-655, also by Councilmember Rosenberg, cancels a portion of the Riverwalk PUD district located at 6,000 River Valley Drive at the southeast corner of River Valley and Newson Station Road, approved for 61 multifamily dwelling units. So we will move for a 1 meeting deferral by rule. And can I get someone to make that motion? Okay. And all in favor? We're good. Okay. I don't do that very often. All righty. Next is item number 8. This is BL 2021-792. The sponsors are Councilmembers Allen, Bradford, and Porterfield. This amends Chapter 2.136 of the Metropolitan Code to require the Planning Department to provide periodic reports regarding the Metro government's efforts to address the issue of housing affordability in Nashville and Davidson County. And we do have an amendment from Councilmember Allen as well. Councilmember Allen, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move my amendment, which is a housekeeping amendment. Can I go ahead and give my brief explanation?
Please do.
It just takes out 2 words that got left over from something and just needed to be scratched, and I appreciate Hannah for picking up on that.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the item as well as an amendment. Is there a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right,
And I'd like to move the bill as amended with a brief explanation.
okay.
So this is kind of a follow-up on a housing scorecard resolution that we passed several years ago that just asked, at that point, the mayor's office of OEOE, I can't even remember what that stands for, Opportunity and Economic something or other, to give us an update on a quarterly basis on how we were doing on creating new affordable units. And it's been a difficult thing for those entities to come up with, but we now have a data person specifically in the planning department that I think can make that happen. So I'd like to change it from a resolution to an ordinance. Just this is a recommendation of the Affordable Housing Task Force, just so that we can track our progress on trying to create units. So I would ask for everyone's support. Thank you.
Great, so we have a motion to move the bill as amended, and is there a second? All right, any discussion, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, so that one is recommended for approval as amended. The next item is item number 9, and this is BL 2021-799, and the sponsors are Councilmembers Henderson, Porterfield, Murphy, and Nash. This grants a temporary construction easement to Piedmont Natural Gas on a parcel of property owned by the Metro government. We do have a letter from Councilmember Henderson requesting approval but we also have a proposed amendment and a late amendment. Could I ask council maybe to describe the amendments, or should we?
My mic is on, but yeah. Console, next to the vice mayor, yeah.
Console, not council.
Yeah, it's actually off now. I think you have to hit it one more time. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So which amendment do you want to do first?
Well, first,
timely filed?
first, could we get a motion to put this one on the? Okay, thank you. And so then we'll move forward to the amendments, and if Ms. Zeitlin will
Sure.
describe the amendments to us.
So the first amendment is a timely filed amendment sponsored by Councillady Henderson. It adds 2 recital clauses. The first is a recital about trees being a public utility, and the second recital just notes that Section 1724.110 of the Metro Code requires trees to be protected at all times during development activities, and that will happen in the TCE, the temporary construction easement area identified in this legislation. The second amendment, and this is a late amendment, it corrects some language in Section 1. There was a copy-paste error that just had the wrong, address in Section 1. So the late amendment updates that to reference the correct piece of property.
Okay, great. After hearing that information, do I have a member of the committee that would like to move either or of the amendments? So, Councilmember Welsh. Both of the amendments? Okay, great. Let's start a second. All right, so we will move both amendments at this time, and then we'll come back for the bill as amended. So, all in favor of the amendments, both amendments from Henderson and Councilmember Murphy, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so we will we're now on the bill as amended with both abstentions. Is there anyone wishing to discuss the item further? Hearing none, I will call for all in favor of the bill as amended with both amendments. Please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Ms. Zeitlin for explaining those for us. So it's recommended for approval as amended. Now, the next one that I have on is with Councilmember Taylor. This is item number 19. It's BL 2021-716. Sponsors Councilmember Taylor. This one changes a specific plan on property located at 401 Clay Street, approximately 310 feet southwest of 3rd Avenue, to add a 0.87 acre parcel to the existing SP to allow for a parking lot. Councilmember Taylor's not present, and I don't have a letter, so I think that we need to defer that one by rule. The next one that I have on our agenda is item number 21, which is BL 2021-735. The sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell. This amends a specific plan district on property located at 50 Music Square West at the southeast corner of Chet Atkins Place and Music Square West to add multifamily residential as a permitted use in addition to the uses already permitted by the SP. And I will go to Councilmember O'Connell for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Great. Please proceed.
Thank you. I think this is the second ever disapproved bill I will be trying to pass up here, but the part of the reason for that is the unusual circumstances of the impact of COVID-19 on the hospitality industry in particular. This SP was originally approved with exactly the same building at this site. The design has not changed. You can see this amends the specific plan to add multifamily residential as a permitted use. There was obviously, prior to this bill, a considerable amount of discussion that went into the Music Row study area and Music Row vision plan that was subsequently produced, and I hope before the end of the year will result in the adoption of a Music Row code to strengthen some of the associated policies. At this site, I know several years ago there was a multi-year pause on rezonings, and Music Row adopted by the Planning Commission specifically because of too much multifamily residential in an intentional corridor without any interactive streetscapes. With this proposal, I actually still expect that the building that gets built will support a hotel and will probably become a hotel at the end of this. The financing for projects like this has been very difficult, and the project team was very transparent about that. And if it does remain as multifamily residential, the other thing that you can see is that we've added some documentation about a commitment to affordable housing. I still think at the end of the day, this will succeed as the original project was designed and not as this S&P amendment makes it forward. This is really to provide flexibility in financing, and I would encourage colleagues to support.
Thank you, Councilmember Connell. Can I maybe call on the planning desk for a little bit more information about the disapproval?
Sure. Hi. So this is within the Music Row study, a project that took some time to complete, but it resulted in the Music Row Vision Plan, which included supplemental policy area for the entirety of Music Row. This was in an area that was specifically indicated as being inappropriate for multifamily. Some of the concerns that came out of the Music Row Vision Plan from the community at large were that the intrusion of large-scale multifamily into Music Row was one of the things that had been, in their mind, impactful on the actual use of Music Row as Music Row. And so this was an area that was indicated to be appropriate for office, but not for multifamily. And so that hence the disapproval. It was inconsistent with the Music Row Vision Plan.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Is there any other discussion? Let me go to Councilmember Allen. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the creative thinking to keep a project moving forward in difficult times. Can you elaborate a little bit on the commitment to affordable housing and how that's documented and enforced, I guess?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember. And I mean, you will appreciate, I'm sure, as will other colleagues up here, the enforceability is going to be the difficult part. But we do have a letter of commitment effectively, right? And I think the applicants understand my attentiveness to this as well. You know, we cannot guarantee, obviously, some of that, some of the percentage in terms of those units, but you know, this is a project I'll be keeping an eye on because fundamentally I expect it to be constructed to be consistent with the Music Row Vision Plan. And to me, that housing option is really the fallback consideration. But if that is where we wind up and they don't honor that commitment, then, you know, I would expect future such scenarios to be harder to execute.
All right, any further discussion before we take a vote? All right, could I see all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. That is recommended for approval. Let's see, we are making good progress. The next item that I have on our calendar is item number 29, and this is BL 2021-771. The sponsors are Councilmembers Syracuse and Roten. This changes from RS10 to SP zoning for property located at 200 Craig Mead Drive to permit 6,000 square feet of office space. I do not believe that we have a letter present for this one, and I don't see either sponsor present. Councilmember Allen, you're saying?
I'm happy to sign on to keep it moving.
Okay, thank you for that. So would you move that? Would you move approval?
I'll move approval.
Okay, is there a second? All right, thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this item? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Great. Thank you so much, Councilmember Allen, for stepping in to sign on that one. The next one is my item. It's item number 31, BL 2021-773. This changes from MULA to SP zoning for properties located at 943, 945, and 947 Woodland Street to permit a mixed-use development. Could I get a member of the committee to, well, I guess I can still move approval. So I'll move approval. Thank you. And if it pleases the committee, I'll go ahead and talk about the amendment. So I'll move the amendment. And if I could, thank you. So this is it is a regulatory SP for properties on Woodland Street that are within the East Bank Redevelopment District. This overall SP grants a little bit larger floor area ratio than what is permitted under the MULA base zoning rights. It doesn't add any height, but it adds a little bit larger building volume that can be permitted so that the applicant is able to, once he builds that parking deck, to build housing units on top of that full parking deck to allow a maximum number of apartment units there in that location on Woodland Street. The SP did have a public hearing. It was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. Since that time, I've come back with a community meeting. The regulatory SP, that went through the public hearings, excluded short-term rentals as a use. Had a subsequent community meeting with the neighbors in the area, and we kind of went down the uses that are permitted within MULA and sort of put together a list of which ones neighbors thought would work pretty well and excluded a lot of the rest. So it does exclude short-term rentals as well as hotel uses. It limits any commercial to the ground floor. One of the things that was important to neighbors is that there be sort of a guarantee of a step back of that fourth floor, so we wrote that into the legislation as well. And all these details are worked out through community feedback. So with that, I will renew the motion to approve the amendments, and is there any discussion on that? All right, seeing none, I will call all in favor. Please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and so now we're on the bill as substituted, as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you so much, everybody. And my next item that I have is item number 34, BL 2021-777. The sponsor is Councilmember Roberts. I do not believe that we have a letter presence for that one, and she is not present. And so that one will be deferred by rule. And that brings us to our last item on the calendar, which is item number 36. It's BL 2021-780 by Councilmember Welsh. This changes from RS10 to SP zoning for property located at 2512 Rasco Street, approximately 260 feet south of J Street, encompassing 0.28 acres. I will recognize Councilmember Welsh. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move my amendment.
Great. Is there a second? Okay, go ahead.
This amendment, there was concern on second reading that the property, the DADU that is used, that is being requested on this property, on this previously built building, would be used as a short-term rental. So this amendment restricts usage. There can be no STRs and no daycares or any of that type of use on the property.
Okay. This is a disapproved bill, so I think we do need to hear from the planning desk on that one, if we may, before we have further discussion, if that's okay.
Sure. The Planning Commission recommended disapproval, given that this is within an area of neighborhood maintenance policy. And so this would be the rezoning of one property to allow for a DADU within an existing building. But given the neighborhood maintenance policy, Planning Commission recommended disapproval.
Okay. Councilmember Welsh, do you have any follow-up on that?
Yes, I do. The planning staff actually recommended this for approval because of the way the neighborhood is growing, because there are other DADU-type situations surrounding that, and because the street, one street over, already allows 2 residential properties on one piece of property. I wouldn't be moving this if they had not approved that, and I wouldn't be moving this if this building was already built. This is something that is there, the impact on the neighborhood, applicant went around to all the neighbors and they signed a petition saying that they supported this. You will not feel much impact from this because the building is already in existence. All the parking is off in this, behind the building or in a garage. Nothing will change physically on the look of the neighborhood or on the street. So I feel like this is actually a very good use of that space as we need this housing. The purpose of this DIDU right now is for long-term rentals, not for STRs or anything else or short-term rentals.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion on that? I'll go over to Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this one, I definitely am sympathetic to the need for more affordable housing. I think I'm given pause by a couple of things. One, I feel like we have mitigated the impact on the short-term rental front, but I do have some concerns that this may be okay. We've got a long-term option out back, but the original property, it sounds like, could still be used as a short-term rental, and I think it's something to keep an eye on, that is not the kind of owner-occupied permit that is being, gaming the system where the owner is not actually ever occupying the residence. I have some concerns about the way the setup is in that regard, that we're using the bigger structure for primarily hospitality use, and only the smaller structure gets used as a long-term option for actual housing. The other thing is, we just had a pretty contentious discussion about where the DADU overlay would apply, and right now we're kind of going through this process of looking at, hey, is this going to be workable within the boundaries of the UZO? And this is not in that area, and I don't know if there is a better step right now, but if this is something we want to pursue on a citywide basis, great, let's look at that. I do share Councilmember Syracuse's concern expressed at our last meeting that what I don't want to encourage is a lot of non-conformant building in areas that would not otherwise support DADUs, and where the community has not stood up and raised their hands more broadly and said, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden we get a bunch of non-conformant structures that suddenly we kind of reverse into becoming DADUs. So those are some thoughts as we consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Do any other members wish to speak on this amendment or the bill? I'll go to Councilmember Parker, and then Councilmember Welsh, I'll come back to you to circle back. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have the text of the proposed amendment in front of me, but I was wondering if staff could tell me, does the proposed amendment preclude short-term rental throughout the entire property, or is it expressly just for the DADU unit?
Go ahead.
Hi, yes, as written, the amendment would prohibit short-term rentals on the entire property, so neither of the structures.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Any other members wishing to speak on this item? So Councilmember Welsh, I'll go back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to reassure Mr. Jones lives on the property and wants to continue living on the property, and the main reason that he wanted to change to get this DADU is because his parents will most likely be moving to Nashville within the next year and a half, and that is going to be housing for them so he can take care of them as they are elderly. So that's the primary reason that he wants to do this. So with that, I would like to move my bill as amended.
All right, great. Well, we're on the amendment, so we'll do the amendment first, but all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the amendment.
Now I would like to move my bill as amended.
All right, and just double checking, is there any other discussion on the bill as amended before we call a vote? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And with that, we will do a show of hands, if that's okay. So in favor of the bill as amended, please raise your hands. Any opposed to the bill as amended? and 1 abstention. And I will join the majority to make it, this is what I have as 9.
Yeah, that's what I
So I will join the majority of the committee, and that will be 9 in favor, 4 opposed, and 1 abstention for the bill as amended. So, thank you. And with that, that brings us to the conclusion of the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee, unless anyone has other business. One thing that Chair Murphy did ask me to emphasize is that, and I think our staff will agree, is that the Planning Commission meeting agenda for Thursday is long. And so if you are wanting to, as a council member, are wanting to share your comments with the commission, you might want to consider sending a letter. And if you do send a letter, please do that as early as possible tomorrow so that it can be included in the public version of the documents that's available. And that way the commission and the public can review those comments in preparation for the meeting and move on with the meeting in a timely manner. So please consider that. And with that, I think that wraps up our committee meeting, and I will say that we are adjourned and turn it over to the next committee. Thank you so much.